Hey guys, Doug from Vinogradofff here. Just wanted to welcome you to a brand new project we just made. So we made this gorgeous spalted maple and epoxy table. So we call it the Map of the Caribbean, and it's, like I said, it's made out of nice, clean, spalted maple and just a ton of resin. So we actually did this project for a client all the way down in the States, and what makes this one different than most other projects we've ever done is its absolute size and the volume of resin. Since design till now, we've been working on this all the way since back in April, and you guys are about to see a super soft maple piece get picked, cleaned, poured, and polished up to this beautiful table that you see here today. Spalted maple has these really nice topographical looking lines on it, and if you zoom out on this whole thing, it looks like a large kind of collection of nice Caribbean islands. One of our co-workers, who's actually from the Caribbean, actually informed me that the Caribbean is actually a little bit cooler than Canada. Now, hear me out on this. He says that because of the lake effect and everything like that, it doesn't really get too far above 35 degrees, which is a nice kind of cool, breezy, warm temperature for the Caribbean, whereas in the summer in here, for the first time ever, he experienced 37, 38 degree summer because we don't have that nice ocean effect here. So when I first found out about the exact size of this table, it took me a bit to process everything because there's a lot of different gears that need to turn in order to make something this size happen. We had to rebuild a brand new table for our epoxy bench just so we could actually support the size and weight of this table. And also we needed all hands on deck to run this thing through the planer because it is very heavy. So this was the most resin we've ever done in an entire project before. So it was over 200 plus liters. The main way to kind of keep a project nice and clean and stable while mixing all this resin is we do it in two stages. So we did one massive blue pour, which Ethan and one of our new guys, Nick, was working on most of the epoxy that day. So what did that day look like to you?
A lot of mixing blue epoxy. It was a full day of just sitting down, mixing and mixing and mixing. I went home that day and all I saw was blue. I came back the next day and we just kept mixing a lot more blue. But at the end, the project looked amazing. In my opinion, my plan was to just fill two giant pools with resin and just swim around in a circle until the whole thing filled up. But, you know, I haven't been here the longest, so that's what I didn't get to do that.
That's okay. We blew through our epoxy budget just making this table, so I get why we couldn't do the Olympic swimming pool on this one. For the next one, we're definitely doing the Olympic swimming pool. With a project like this, especially with super soft maple, it's very easy to get a lot of bubbles. So one, we pre-sealed off everything to make sure that a bunch of air from the slab itself didn't make its way into the river. We prayed to both epoxy gods to make sure that both of them were kind of on our side, because if you just do one, then the other one's going to get jealous. So it's very important to pray to both epoxy gods to make sure that you don't get air trapped in here and you don't have over-curing issues. But honestly, it's an army of fans keeping your room as temperature controlled as possible. And again, lots of prayers.
So to get rid of some of those bubbles, we use this technique called the fires of hell. We take a blowtorch and we'll torch the surface of the epoxy, and that helps raise some of the bubbles to the surface, pops them. So that's our main method to get rid of some of the bubbles after it's been through the vacuum seal.
True story.
Yep, it works.
Yeah, tried and true. So the epoxy pour process, every time we did a day, it was the entire day, start to finish. Arrive early, staying late. Every time we did it, we had a team of 3 people mixing, degassing for every stage, and the pours happened over the course of 3 separate days with 72 hours in between to let everything cure properly.
It was a big conga line of one person mixes, one person degasses, one person pours, and it's just over and over and over again, all 3 days.
Yeah. So you'll notice in the table we've got this lovely kind of like wave pattern here. So prior to doing this project, I'd actually only done waves before a handful of times, so I wasn't incredibly experienced at it. This was Ethan's first time getting a chance to do something like this. Luckily enough, one of our clients in the showroom was picking up some wood. Lindsay from Backwood Design Co. You can check them out right here. They're incredible. Epoxy wave art is their bread and butter, and she was kind enough to kind of give me some tips and tricks from an actual expert at this kind of thing. So thank you so much, Lindsay. You are an absolute gem to help us out with this one.
If it weren't for you, I'd be pulling the little bit of hair I have out.
Hi, my name is Lucas. I run the machines and as well as run the warehouse.
And I'm Jackson. I'm Lucas's assistant, and I also run the warehouse with him.
So to run a piece this large without damaging it takes essentially the whole shop, many carts and a lot of teamwork and planning. We had 4 people, 2 people on each side, and actually we had 6 people, 2 people on each side, 2 on the ends and 2 on the other side, and then we had Jackson running the cart as well.
Okay, so first of all, I did more than running the cart, and it wasn't my idea to start the planing process with the forklift. So
the entire process took about 2 days. I'll explain the planer part, and I'll get Jackson to explain the sander part. Essentially, we had to take very little passes off in between because it was so wide, and the amount of epoxy just made it very difficult to do. So it took a lot of passes and a lot of time, a lot of breaks. And then we moved on to sanding, which I guess I'll get Jackson to explain.
So sanding was pretty much the same process. The way the planer works is you have to take a very minimal amount off of the piece of wood. So since the sander is not as heavy duty as the planer head, you have to take much less passes off at a time. So that process was a little bit slower, but less passes because the piece of wood was already flattened fully.
I think the most nerve-wracking moment during the planing stage was, regardless of how much we lifted it, still seeing the table bend and almost look like a half pipe.
The most nerve-wracking part for me was probably bringing the cart around and having to pump up the cart ever so slightly to catch the table. But I helped with flipping it as well. A lot. I helped a lot.
My name's Cole. I'm the lead finisher here at Vinogradofff. This table was pretty challenging to sand at first just because of the volume of it. It's very long. It's not too wide, but it's very long. Probably took me twice as long to do this one than most. Another challenge we faced with this table for me was having to stop and get everyone to come upstairs and help me flip it over, because it took about 6 guys to flip it. After this table came out of the planer, it was my job to take it from the ground up. So I started with the Rotex at 100 grit to get all the planer lines out, and then I went to my number 5 sander with the 120, walked my way up with the Mirka to 180, and then I did an actual extra step this time. I put a 220 grit sandpaper on there just to make it a little extra shiny and see-through. After that, I went with the roller and I did a roll coat of 3043, which is our Osmo satin finish, our most popular. The finishing process for this table actually probably took about 4 days because I had to roll one side, wait 24 hours to flip it, roll the other side, sand in between that coat, flip it over, sand the other side, buff coat the bottom, and then wait 24 hours again to flip it over and do the top again.
So for the design of the legs, Doug and I worked on that together. We found an inspiration photo online and we decided to use ambrosia maple for that. Alrighty, so first things first, we have to gather all the material. We had to use dimensional lumber for this process. After we generated our cut list, we milled everything through the planer, glued it all up, and then once that was completed, we pre-planed everything and pre-sanded everything. So we had to glue all of our material up first. Once that was done and all of our post-planing was completed, we had to cut all of them to their final sizes. Once that was done, we did our domino layouts, making sure that everything lined up according to our plans. We did one big dry fit with all of our dominoes in. Once the dry fit process was completed, we were able to begin the gluing process and assemble the entire project.
My name is Daniel Flavini and I'm the videographer for Vinogradofff. I'm responsible for capturing all the media content for the client and our online store. So I'm sure by now you would have heard the guys mention how big this table is, right? And that created quite a bit of a challenge for me because there's only so much space we have in the staging area. For this table, I would say has a special place in my heart because I'm an island boy, right? I was born in the Caribbean and it's like a replica of the Caribbean for me. So it's really special. So the first thing I said when it was all assembled was like, wow, I miss home. It was stunning. I think for me, this is one of the best tables that we've ever produced. And if I was back home, we would say something like, yeah man, this having a vibe.
So for a table that is this long and this wide, we package it incredibly carefully. We're gonna be wrapping it in several layers of foam, and we're gonna be building a 2x4 and plywood casing to ship this thing in. So a nice shipping crate will go along with this project. So to make transportation a little bit easier for this table, the base actually comes completely separate from the table, and we can break it down into 3 separate pieces to be packaged a little bit smaller than its giant frame here. So we got everything wrapped up and disassembled and crated nicely, and here you can see it on its way southbound to head to the States. When I first saw this thing finally assembled on its base and ready in the showroom for the studio, the only thing I could think of was, wow. And also, thank God we're done. Check us out next time at our social media in the description, or you can see us at www.vinogradofff.com. Remember to let your home grow.
Crafted that together. We took them and, hold on, we'll back up real quick.
Get it together, bro.
You get it together.
Copy.
Yeah.
No, I won't.
I guess we'll look more professional like this.
So we made this project for a client that is, let me start over again.
Mic check, 1, 2.
So for this project, when the guys are finished,
Hi, I'm Lucas. I run. Sorry. Hi, I'm Jackson. I'm a full-time.